everybody, it's T. Pelton Nature. Welcome to the Circle of Brilliance. Today we're going to continue our discussion about the collusion spectrum and see if we can make any sense of how this might overlay on the change grid. And in preparation for that, I put together a couple of diagrams. I know they're rather kind of, I want to say, the overlays. I know it gets to be a bit confusing to look at a certain point, but I just wanted to put these into an arrangement and see how we might feel about it. So just as a way of getting things back into discussion, let me slide that out of here.
It almost looks like confronter and friend are almost in the opposite spots.
Well, and I'm thinking that may well be. What I am going to do, I don't know if you guys got this last time around, but I'm going to go ahead and chat it over to everyone. So again, this is the PDF file for the diagram that you're looking at. Again, if you were to try to print it out, you've got to know it's a little bit more than 2 feet wide and 3 feet tall if you wanted to go to full size. So the two main dimensions were power versus acquiescence versus warmth against resistance. So one continuum, power to acquiescence, the other one warmth to resistance. And Thomas Oden, in the development of the collusion spectrum, identified some 16 different ploys that one might employ as they are trying to work their way through some sort of a transaction. And that transaction could be anything from a one-on-one conversation up to trying to influence an entire population. So one of the things I was reading over the past several days was about how this has also been used to describe the movement of populations, of cultures and subcultures, that some of us have been kind of raised to believe that how we all should be is as strong, competitors. So if you live in a culture, the family, whatever the group is of any size, you may very well have already been very much indoctrinated into one or a few of these 16 different possibilities. And that means there could be some that you have no real familiarity with or comfort with, fluency with. But again, Odin would say, no, everyone has all of these available to them at all times, but your comfort moving from one to the next could be somewhat, different. So anywho, I thought, well, let's kind of take the diagram as it is and say, does this overlay exactly as we're looking at it on the change grid? And that question was very quickly met with no. Power is not up grid. Power would definitely be out grid. And that means this whole thing has to rotate. Well, if it's just a strict 90-degree rotation, let me zoom it in a little bit. If it's just a strict 90-degree rotation, if power is out grid, then acquiescence has to be in grid. And we said, well, there's a certain logic to that. Certainly, if we described the most amiable, as far in grid as you could get, we would say that acquiescence is definitely something that they probably employ very, we'll just say frequently, readily, easily, because for them, that's proven to be perhaps the best coping mechanism that they had. So I can see how those are opposites, and that does seem to overlay pretty well. Power is about getting out there and making something happen. Well, this other dimension, warmth versus resistance. And this is more about what's happening on the kind of emotional dimension. So on the one hand, we're warm and approachable and all those good sorts of words, comforter, cooperator, cheerful, affectionate. Don't know if you can see some of these words. We'll zoom in to take a closer look when the time comes in. But that would mean the opposite would be the confronter, the judge, the dissenter, this kind of stuff. So not necessarily active resistance. It might just be passive resistance, depending on where you fall along this little arc over here. So that would mean that warmth or resistance has to be up grid, and that would put the other down grid. So I think we were kind of going like, when I see the word friend, I don't think of it as being particularly up grid. I think of it as being what direction? What do you guys think? Where would friend go?
Down or in grid.
Down or in grid? And I'm thinking, well, In grid would be friend the way an amiable views it. So how does an amiable view a friend differently than how an analytical would view a friend? Anyone want to throw out a thought there?
There's more warmth with the amiable. The analytical's trying to figure it out in their head.
Yeah. And I think too that when it comes to friend, comforter, cooperator, this resonates with the amiable's need to be of service to others. Remember that the primary thing an amiable wants is to be able to care about something and to be recognized and acknowledged for that caring. And that doesn't even have to be any kind of grand recognition. If a little nod of appreciation or a little hug goes a very long way if you're going to talk about the textbook amiable sort of behavior. So those words really kind of go in, but their idea of friend is what you do for other people. Where if I'm thinking about an analytical's idea of a friend, what's an analytical's idea of a friend? What's that like? Let's see. And T, you have your hand up. If you want to, you can go ahead and unmute yourself if you want, or you can type something over and I'll share it with everybody. But I see your hand is up right now. So like, yeah, so whatever. Um, and then if I look over here at what the analytical is doing, dissenter, confronter, judge, competitor, withholder, if those energies are present, how does that affect friendship? And I can kind of see that there is a type of friendship that very much exists there. These are people who are comfortable enough with one another to have challenging discussions and to, to debate things and to, what do I say, have our own little areas of knowledge and expertise and share those things and come at a situation from different angles and let it resolve however it resolves. And so I can kind of see that there's kind of a friendship that sort of comes from that dynamic, but it's also the downgrid people tend to be very comfortable around downgrid people because they're just comfortable, period. So they view their ability as very high, the challenge is very low. You don't represent any threat to them, and they don't represent any threat to you. And so everyone can be mellow with one another, but that doesn't feel like active friendship as much as it sounds like there's a passive sort of friendship, or there is a way to play this game of the mind that confronter, dissenter, judge, etc., might be revealing there. Mhm. Yeah, if you can see the note that T just chatted over, she says, I think an analytical will think of a friend as about someone who can guide or move them to be better. I think that's part of it. It's like people that tend to be downgrid, that appreciate knowledge and learning and all that good sort of stuff, almost always make room for other ideas to come into the discussion and for things to morph after a while. That being said, if they feel strongly about whatever position they hold, they're also very well equipped in that moment to put up whatever case they need to put up. So maybe it's going to be respectfully adversarial. Maybe it's going to become a bit more bickering than that, but you get the idea. You get the idea. All right, so again, throwing this back to you guys. I have no problem with power and acquiescence being on the horizontal continuum that goes right through the center of power, no problem at all. But I'm simply not convinced about where warmth and resistance would go. And so I put together a couple of PowerPoint slides just to see if we can make any sense out of this. Wait, that's not the one I want. Everyone just relax for a minute. There we go. I want this one. So what I did was I ended up just typing them out again and put them into the rotation so that director and obeyer would be on the two extremes. So the director is the one that expresses the highest level of power, and the obeyer the highest level of acquiescence. So I decided we'll put those there. Now, I created a diagram where I put the rest of them moving up so that friend could be at the top of the change grid and confronter would be at the bottom of the change grid. you'll notice that I did not stretch these all the way to the danger zones. I do not believe that when we talk about the pure, the centered version of each of these 16, that they are necessarily all, some are more problematic than others, or some are relatively less. I'm sure they all have their own ways that the dark side can express itself. But I believe when we're looking at the model, we are trying to look at people that are functional, that can, I want to say, they're taking on these different ploys in order to get something to happen. It's a transaction that's underway, and we're just trying to be more aware about how we are coming to it and carrying ourselves, etc. So something's trying to change there. So I decided to position them this way around. I also did the other one where I put confronter up top. And so perhaps the best way for us to do this is let me to go ahead. Oh, right. T is added there. The analytical will have fewer friends and the amiable will more. Will have more. Yeah. Yeah. Analyticals have a stronger likelihood of, I want to say, minimizing their social exposure because it's exhausting. Okay, anyway, so I'm going to read you the descriptions of friend and confronter. And then you guys just see if you can decide, is one further upgrade than the other? And by the way, just to say to you, even if we decide if a flip needs to occur, we're still not necessarily sure that this is the correct rotation. It's darn close to the correct rotation, but we may want to shift it a little bit. All right, so with that, let me go ahead and read to you everything I can tell you about friend. So let me zoom in on here. You guys have the diagram locally. You can do this as well as you want, if you want. But a friend, the biggest descriptor for them is affectionate. Affectionate. What kind of roles fall into this? Receptionists, mediators, social workers. They avoid angry confrontation. The dark side of what they are all about would be over familiarity. Um, Romanticism, fatuousness, licentiousness, I love these words, sentimentalism, compulsive self-disclosure. So those are some of the behaviors relating to overfamiliarity that you might see from that individual. So fatuousness, romanticism, yeah. There's a whole bunch of other adjectives right here that we could go through, but let's come all the way down. They believe that what they bring to the table is love, and that expresses itself in terms of empathy, intimacy, friendship, understanding, spontaneity, eros, philia, agape, and caritas. I know what eros, philia, and agape are. What type of love is caritas? Caritas? Anybody know? I might look that one up. But so they're about love in all of its different forms, and they offer affection. Their self view is I'm friendly and affectionate, and that's what they want is affection. So if I said nothing else, do you think people that are upgrade are more or less interested in the affection, the love, all the things you've just heard me describe? Does friend feel more upgrade or downgrade? Somebody unmute and play the game with T.
That's a downgrade behavior.
See, and I continue to have this little debate. Is that really upgrade? If it is upgrade, does it feel like it should be all the way up into stress? I mean, I guess if I'm looking at some of these less attractive kind of descriptors, maybe. And I can get this idea about avoiding angry confrontation. Um, if you can avoid it, that's definitely kind of, you're there when you have that feeling like if I don't do something to diffuse this, it's going to get a lot more explosive. So what can I do to kind of calm it down? So that would build the case for it being upgrade like it's being shown. But the rest of it, I don't know. We'd have to look down here in power apathy, or rather power stress, or down here in this part of it that's inside of the green circle. And I think a lot of it, by the way, let me just do this real quick. For a few, moments I was wondering, does this actually all fit inside of the green circle? I won't do the whole thing because no one will be able to read it, but does this actually all fit into the green, or is it stretch out from the center all the way to the red? So something for else for us to think about. Okay, let me go ahead and give you guys the description of the confronter. And again, the question is, does that feel more upgrade or downgrade to you? So let's zip over to this side of things. So the confronter. Yep. Can I zoom in anymore? Oh, yay, excellent. All right, so the confronter is aggressive. Hmm. Um, they are police officers, bouncers, boxers. Theodore Roosevelt, Ivan the Terrible, Oswald. You know, it does date when this was created, just on who they're putting up as examples. They avoid cozy vulnerabilities. On their worst days, they can be viewed as being ruthless, maliciousness, strife, belligerence, hatred, warmongering, homicide, violence. Okay, that's on their worst possible day. Where do you guys think those words currently exist on the adjective map? Where do you think they would be? David, what do you think? Up, down,
Upgrade
in,
danger
out?
zone.
It's an outgrade danger zone.
Outgrid danger zone.
Outgrade danger zone.
Upgrade danger zone. Yeah,
Yeah.
that may make more sense.
Yeah, upper danger zone. And they believe, well, you should confront when necessary. They want to be viewed as lively and spirited. So, on their good days, that feels, I mean, those words, lively and spirited, feel more upgrade. What they feel like they bring to the discussion is criticalness, appropriate deterrence, vitality, spiritedness, and a capacity to negotiate. Huh. All right, so back to our little diagrams. Does that feel particularly downgrade?
No.
No. So do I put it upgrade instead? Hmm. So this ends up being our little debate to try to resolve and work our way through.
I
So,
think that looks more accurate.
well, that's what I'm wondering as well. So now if we're saying like, no, the confronter is upgrade. Well, confronting is certainly one of the things that people could do. They could be aggressive. I also see aggressiveness as living out grid.
Yep.
Hmm. I do believe when it comes to being very critical, downgrid people are very well positioned to be critical, but so are outgrid people. And maybe even some upgrade kinds of things. I guess it depends on what they're being critical of. When I think about people who are being critical of one another's appearance, I wonder if it's because they feel like they're in a competitive situation and they're trying to somehow or another denigrate the other person to build themselves up, in which case that criticalness is not the critical thinking that would come out of an analytical's mind, as much as it might be a response that someone has when they're being more emotionally stimulated, become a little bit more agitated, a little more threatened, whatever. I mean, I read some of these words here for the confronter: bloodthirsty, psychopathic, belligerent, pugnacious, hostile, quarrelsome. Now, as we work our way down, the words get a bit more pleasant. So on their better days, they could be provocative, pointed, animated, vigorous, driving, stimulating, lively, differing, intense, vital, energetic. So, and those definitely feel a bit more upgrade. Yeah. She says, confronter seems reactive and almost a passive aggressive. I don't think if police is that. I would certainly say to you, I don't think that police officers, how about this? I don't believe that the 99% of police officers that are out there doing a good job every day are certainly, um, labeled like these things are, but they've got their own little issues in their house to clean up. So some might come across in these ways, but certainly not the majority that we're kind of looking at as we do this. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So I brought this up only to say that I think that this is going to be a different overlay on the change grid than the one that we are traditionally looking at. It may very well be that we, instead of looking at things going to their poles, could it be opposite? Like if I said, is it possible for a confronter to be halfway out grid and halfway up grid? So rotate this so that the whole thing shifts two positions clockwise. If that was the case, then competitor would be out grid, director would be down grid, and that doesn't feel right. But if I did it the other way and said, no, let's rotate it so that the competitor is out grid, that would mean the director is halfway up and halfway out. And that would put the protector very far up grid. Now that starts to feel a little bit more realistic, a little bit more workable. Yeah. Now working our way down grid, if we do rotate this in such a way that the competitor is out grid, that would mean that coming down grid, as our level of perceived challenge goes down, again, we have to have a high level of ability to be out here anyway. I can certainly see how that competitor with a little bit more analytical energy could come across as a judge. And below them would be this confronter who's basically there to be the reformer, to make people stop and think about what they're doing, and on, the confronter. Well, if a confronter doesn't have enough energy to confront, they may very well take the role of a dissenter. And that means they might vote against it, but they're not going to be particularly verbal or whatever around that. And that would put withholder furthest down grid. So let's take a look at withholder and see if that describes a downgrade way of doing things. And I don't know if the answer is yes, but we're going to find out. Okay. A defensive withholder. They avoid independent involvements. That's definitely true for downgrade. They avoid interdependent involvements. I don't know enough about Coolidge or Thoreau or Gauguin, Beethoven to have begin to tell you that this is where their personalities would be. But defense attorneys, machinists, hermits, and hobos. I wonder how defense attorneys feel with the fact that they've been lumped together with hermits and hobos. Um, on the bad days, their worst case, apathy actually ends up being their dark side. Despair, melancholia, jealousy, lethargy, pessimism, moroseness, resignation. That stuff certainly is happening quite far down grid. What is good about downgrid, that far downgrid feels like they bring to the table is realism. You can count on them to be real. So prudence, carefulness, probity, intuitiveness, discretion, self-defense. Okay, I can see some of those might be there. I'm restrained and mysterious. What I want is distance from whatever happens to be going on. So that does kind of feel like that would match. A quiet confronter has pocket vetoes. So true, so true, so true. All right, so let's take a look at one more little element here. And then, yeah, we'll see where we end up. Now, that would mean then that the person who is furthest in grid would be the dependent. The obeyer would shift to halfway down and halfway in. So where we see withholder would go all the way down. And you know what I can do? Y'all ready to be impressed? I could just move these things around and be done with it. So competitor goes there, director goes there, protector goes there. That means friend would go here, dependent would go here, obeyer would go here, and withholder would go here, confronter goes here. Yeah, judge, individualist, guide, comforter, cooperator, follower, self-denier, dissenter. Okay, I think I did that correctly. So that's what this particular rotation would end up looking like. So let's read a little bit about the individualist and see if you can feel a little bit more upgrid energy coming from that type, or that, again, they're talking about ploys, things we move into. So we'll take a look at individualist. La, da, 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 ba, da, 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 da. You know, when we rotate it, it might not be as pretty of a diagram, but that doesn't matter. Individualists are assertive, explorers, daredevils, prima donnas, artists. Okay, Bobby Fischer, De Gaulle, Dali, Nietzsche. Yeah, Nietzsche. Okay, avoids docile acts. Even there, if I just stop there, I go, well, that certainly fits here. That's a lot of driver energy with a little bit of expressive energy thrown in. So it's a driven expressive driver. We'd be right around here. So that feels like that could match pretty well. What else do they say here? Oh, they have to watch out for arrogance. So narcissism, chauvinism. Narcissism is definitely an outgrid danger zone occurrence. Keep in mind that if I really look at all this and I said, oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong one now. Wait, too many things open. You get out of the way. This one. So keep in mind, if I overlaid this, part of this individualist would most definitely be in the danger zone, or right up to the edge of the danger zone. So on their worst possible day, you can see how that might come into the discussion. What else about them? Narcissism, chauvinism, boasting, immodesty, presumption, conceit, vanity. That's all very much what's going on there. They want to be viewed as self-reliant and confident. They want recognition. They feel like they bring independence, self-respect, ego strength, self-reliance, confidence. So that to me feels very much on brand for this particular area of the change grid. You guys agree? Disagree? Anything you want to throw in? All right, then let's go up a little bit and talk about the director. So the director. Now on their way, they're saying the director is the most, exerts the greatest level of power that one can. So this is executives, managers. Okay, Napoleon, Elizabeth, MacArthur. It's so interesting. They don't want to lose power or influence. Now, it's interesting just stopping there for a second, because I will tell you that as you start to move from power, that director is solidly in power stress. And if they happen to be leaning towards stress, I can certainly see where that fear of the loss of control is going to start to come in there. In power, they feel very much in control. So here they're saying that they avoid the loss of power influence. That's resonating with that. Their problem is they can come across bossy. Now, someone who's in the outgrid danger zone, you can say comes across bossy, but really I think they come across more like an autocrat, where someone who is a little bit upgrid, but still outgrid, primarily outgrid, obviously, but on the upgrade side of things, I can see where they might end up coming across as bossy because they're just trying to get something done. That's their impatience coming into play. And it's fortified by their false superiority, their illusions of omnipotence, all that sort of a thing could be going on there. They're all about magnificence, efficiency. I know it seems like you might be more like to be that way if you're just purely outgrid, but I don't know that an outgrid person carries the level of self-doubt, if you will, that's being slightly upgraded starts to introduce. You know, that the person who's on the heartline of power is 100% confident. And it's not an act. They genuinely feel 100% confident. So I don't really know that that this describes them. But if they're starting to feel a little bit out of their element, the challenge is greater than their ability, then they have to do something to puff themselves up and spread their feathers to make themselves look as attractive or large or powerful as possible. So I can kind of see where some of these things are going to start to come into play there again. All right. Now, working our way around a little bit, we could go up to guide, and then let's take a look at protector and see where that leaves us for today. So the guide, now to be the guide, this is what's a little confusing for me. You only have a slightly higher level of perceived ability than this protector one. If I drew my lines in, it's true, protector is almost entirely up in stress. No, 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 no. No, that's true. Protector, it would be, most of it would be up there in stress. Um, but so where does this guide come into play? Well, the guide believes they have a higher level of ability. They're more into power stress than they are into stress. And so this is where they come across. Um, educators, pilots, guides, ship captains, interesting. They're all about competence, sagacity, wisdom, intelligence, certainty, cogency, trustworthy. I'm competent and convincing. The thing is that if you are in that area of the change grid we've just described, I'm going to slide this in for just a second and just scoot a couple of things. Or, oh, I can't scoot these. It's in a different thing. All right. The guide is right here where you see comforter. So when it comes to the level of tension, that is power stress. They would view their ability as being somewhere between 3 and call it 5, 5.5 maybe. So I don't really know that I'm hearing the level of perceived ability that they are implying a guide would have. So we might need to resolve that. And keep in mind, we can resolve things either by seeing what the change grid needs to modify, but sometimes we can accommodate these sorts of discrepancies by saying, you know, when you look at everything that's been merged into the change grid, maybe it is the change grid that can help refine this situation more so than the other way around. Oh, okay. Now, that is then going to leave, and this is the last one I'd like to go over for today. I know we're running a little bit, it's a shorter class today, but I just want to take a look at protector. And so protector would be the one that is furthest upgrid in this particular case. Now, a large chunk of this is up in stress, but none of it is in the danger zone. Remember, we confined this to that red circle. So none of what we're about to talk about would be danger zone. I mean, I don't know, maybe a couple of the words we stumble across would fall in the danger zone, but the spirit of overall is not danger zone. It's more, in what way does being in an upgrade place serve you well? So let's see if we can take a look at that. What did I just do with my giant map of the color? There it is. Yeah, here. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at the protector. The protector is all about being responsible. Gardeners, philanthropists, childcare, they avoid the appearance of defensiveness. They come across as being possessive. Got to watch out, or no, when they're worst day, they come across being possessive, paternalistic, yeah, conspicuous philanthropy, patronizing, but they want to be viewed and appreciated for their generosity, benevolence, helpfulness, etc. They like to think they're protecting others' interests. I will tell you that some of that certainly holds true for certain parts of being upgrid. Let's take a look at that for just a second. Keep in mind that here I am an amiable expressive. If I drew that wedge in, I have a little bit of that. Here I am a driven expressive, an analytical expressive. So there are some things that could be happening here. I know that often when people think about being upgrid, they think it's inherently a negative situation, where most of the time when we're just living life, it really just represents a little bit of a puzzle that we need to figure out, something that we need to complete doing. And so we're just looking for those missing pieces. So I don't really hear what I would have been looking for either guide or for protector. And that's what we're going to need to resolve. So I think with what I'll show you the next time around, we might get a little bit of a clue into the resolution. But quite candidly, my biggest reason for wanting to share this model with you is not only because I happen to find it absolutely fascinating, but I think it's a wonderful exercise in helping you guys to stop for just a moment at a given coordinate pair and say, how is that spot different than any of its neighboring points? So what are the subtleties and nuances? What are the gray areas? What is the full range of adjectives that might fit on each of these different spectrums? So that's what I really want you guys to do, is just go like, all these words that you see on here occur in one and only one place on the change grid. Can we figure out where those are? That's what our ultimate goal really is. Okay, so with that, does anyone have any questions, comments? If not, then thank you. Okay, then let's pick up where we left off on Thursday. So thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye for now.